Hi guys, welcome to the short video about the question how to replace the battery on an Eclipse 2011. Here we have the one from our son, and I've done a lot of research or tried to find some information on YouTube, and it was really difficult to find something, so I just did it myself with the information I had. And I had the help of my family, and so we did it in about, I would say, between 1 hour, 1.5 hours. What I really recommend is not to do it yourself. It could be really beneficial if you have some helping hand. It's not impossible to do it yourself, especially if you're experienced, but if you're experienced you wouldn't watch this video. So I highly recommend to have somebody to help you or to give you some advice. What we have to remove, of course, is this bracket. I hope you can see that. This black bracket here, it has 2 screws here, 2 screws in the middle, and 2 screws also over there, and we have to remove them. Of course, it's not a big deal. The ones in the middle have been a little bit stuck, but finally we have been able to remove them. Then the next thing is, of course, to remove the battery connections and also this bracket here. That's the bracket here which holds the battery in place, and you have to untighten this screw here and also this screw here. It can take a little bit of time because you can see how far you have to go up. What I recommend is to not remove the nuts completely, just untighten them, rotate them counterclockwise till they sit on top here but still are connected. So because this is a huge advantage, because the idea is to have everything connected, because then you cannot lose the screws and these things here. I have been able to remove the whole thing, like this bolt, the bracket and the nuts here in one piece, lift it up, and then after that put it back after removing or replacing the battery. That's possible, but it's a little bit tight here on the side. If it's not possible, of course, then you have to remove these nuts here. It's not a big deal, but you have to be careful that you don't lose the nuts. But it's definitely easier to remove it in one piece. Just when it's loose here, you have to rotate this about 90 degrees to the side. There are some hooks down there. Just make sure that they move like to the side, and then you can lift up the whole thing. Here it's of course reverted. The hook down there, it's underneath the battery. There's a hook. You have to rotate the whole thing, the whole bolt, 90 degrees to the side, then you can lift up this whole bracket. Then after that, of course, you have to remove first the negative connection here. That's the one here in the back, which is black usually, because it's not only connected to the electronics of the car, it's also connected to the chassis of the car, and that's the reason why we always remove this thing here first. Of course, this connection does not have to be removed, only remove the connection here, and then after that also the plus connection. It's down here. You just have to untighten this bolt here, and then you can move it a little bit and lift it up. Same thing here, just untighten this nut here a little bit, and then you can move it a little bit back and forth and pull it up. And then when you buy a new battery, of course, you have to make sure that it's a suitable battery. I think there is a number here, 26-3 here, and what's even more important, I think that's this number here. It says 525 cold crank something. That's the number which really says how much peak power I think it can produce, and so you shouldn't buy a battery with less than that, otherwise you could have problems to start the engine. What's also important when you remove the battery and also bring in the new battery, always keep the battery leveled, never tilt it or so. Usually the new batteries, they are more or less tight, but it's not like a lithium-ion battery which you can move around or so. It's still a little bit a different thing with this lead batteries from the car, so make sure that you don't tilt them too much. But after removing this bracket here, it's absolutely no problem. It's just a little bit of weight. It's not a super large battery, but I recommend to have somebody who has like a strong hands or like strong arms to move out the old battery and place in the new battery. What's also important to know, at least we had this thing when we attached, I mean, you remove first the minus, then you remove the plus, and when you put it in, you attach first the plus and then after the minus. And when you attach the minus, of course this battery is fully charged, and then the electronics starts working, and in our case the car started honking. That was probably the alarm which went off. So I highly recommend to have the remote control on hand, so when it starts honking you can press the open door button, and at least in our case it stopped immediately the honking. And what's also highly recommended is to clean these connectors here, because especially inside they could be very, very dirty, like from corrosion and so on. So make sure you clean everything thoroughly, and then put a little bit of like silicone. This is what I've been using. Otherwise you could use also the like a W40 anti-corrosion thing. Yeah, it's definitely a good thing when you put some anti-corrosion here, so it has much better connection and will probably also last longer. And after you put the battery back and connect the plus and the minus, I would try to start it already to make sure that everything is working before you put back this bracket and this bracket. We did it. I mean, there's absolutely no problem. As long as you're not driving around, you can definitely start the engine while just having the battery just sitting here and not fully secured. Of course, here also the reason why we did that, of course, under normal circumstances I would just like jump start this car and drive to like O'Reilly's or AutoZone or something like that, and then let them replace the battery, which I usually do. But the problem is that on this car also the tires are bad after sitting for 1 year here on the place, and it's also not insured and those things. So we wanted to make sure that it has at least a properly working battery at the beginning. By the way, there are some people recommending to buy some special power adapter which you could attach to the like electronics, which you can connect underneath the steering wheel. On the left side you have this thing where you usually get the data, read out the data or so. There's a possibility to put the electronics on power while you have the battery removed, so that would make sure that the engine, like the electronics, does not forget all the settings. I mean, usually these cars, they learn over time how you are driving, and then they are trying to optimize that. And of course also the settings which you have on your car radio will probably be lost when you just remove the power, and so there's a possibility to keep it like powered during the time when the battery is not connected anymore. But in this case the battery was so low there was absolutely no power here anymore, so there was nothing to save, and we started the engine after that and we checked everything, and there was absolutely nothing special, nothing really weird. So it also looks like the Mitsubishi Eclipse, at least 2011 GS Sports, does not require this extra power during the battery replacement. Yeah, so that's it for now. I hope I've been able to help you a little bit with this video. If you have any questions or comments, just write to the comment section below. I'm always happy to talk about these things, and if you like the video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe my channel. Thanks for watching. See you next time.